Breaking in women's basketball. Caitlin Clark has been benched by Team USA, and now Sue Bird is speaking out. Bird, four-time Olympic gold medalist, WNBA icon, and one of the most respected voices in the sport, rarely walks into controversies, but this one was too big to stay quiet. For weeks, fans have debated online. Headlines have questioned every decision. And now Bird has jumped in the conversation, and her words are shaking the basketball world.
It's really tough. I think every Olympic cycle, there's a story of a snub.
Millions of fans saw this benching as wrong. Millions more agreed with Bird. Leaving Clark sidelined was a huge mistake. Sue Bird isn't holding back. She's calling out what everyone's been whispering, and she's making it clear Caitlin Clark deserved better. Comment, support Clark if you stand with them. Now, here's what happened. In June 2024, the final 12-player roster for the USA basketball women's national team heading to the Paris Olympics was first leaked and later confirmed. Caitlin Clark was not included on that roster. This came as a shock to many, considering she was the #1 pick in the 2024 WNBA draft and one of the biggest rising stars in women's basketball.
We just had breaking news just a few minutes ago. Caitlin Clark not making the Olympic team despite leading all rookies in points and assists. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you know, obviously broken news. I've got to look at the roster to see who they picked to be on the team, but I would imagine they leaned on veterans. And while Caitlin has had an incredible season,
Clark had extraordinary credentials. The all-time NCAA Division I scoring leader, a massive college legacy, and a freshman WNBA season that brought immense fan attention. Yet that wasn't enough for the selection committee.
You put Caitlin Clark on that team, and every single one of those guys that can't stand women's basketball are running to watch that team, and not just Americans. I was at the Masters, a British journalist came up and said he couldn't wait.
The committee, led by Chair Jen Rosati, explained that their decision revolved around experience. Every one of the 12 players picked had prior senior national team or Olympic experience. Clark did not. Selection criteria reportedly included not just raw talent, but readiness for international play, versatility, familiarity with FIBA rules, and chemistry under pressure. The committee insisted decisions were based strictly on basketball criteria, not popularity or media buzz.
So if you had the #1 pick this year, you would take Paige over Caitlin?
absolutely.
So when they looked at the roster as a whole, the balance of positions, lineups, defensive and offensive roles, they concluded Clark, as talented as she is, didn't check enough boxes for a high-stakes Olympic campaign with limited prep time. Additionally, reports like Sportskeeda later revealed that Caitlin Clark was offered a last-minute spot on Team USA's 3x3 basketball squad, but she reportedly declined the offer. Clark was focused on her WNBA career and did not want to shift her attention to 3x3 basketball, which has a different format, rules, and style of play compared to traditional 5-on-5 international competition. Did Clark want to go to Paris on this US team? The answer from Clark and her team was simple. No, she did not want to play 3x3 basketball at the Olympics, Brennan wrote in her new book about Caitlin Clark. While being part of any Olympic roster is a tremendous honor, Clark and her team apparently felt that the 3x3 opportunity did not align with her long-term professional goals and preparation. This decision, when combined with Team USA's committee assessment of readiness, versatility, chemistry under pressure, and familiarity with FIBA rules, ultimately led to her not joining the Paris Olympic team. When the roster leak became public, reactions were immediate and intense, but Caitlin Clark's response was measured. She told reporters she was not disappointed. Her exact words, "It just gives me something to work for." She emphasized her support for the teammates who did make it, rooting for their success.
Honestly, no disappointment. I think it just gives you something to work for. That's a dream. Hopefully one day I can be there, and I think it's just a little more motivation.
Rather than lash out, she treated the snub like an opportunity. She acknowledged the competitiveness of Team USA and admitted the decision could have gone either way. That maturity, choosing determination over bitterness, resonated with many. It signaled that Clark wasn't viewing this as a rejection, but as fuel.
Hopefully in 4 years, when 4 years comes back around, I can be there. I'm going to be rooting them on to win gold. I was a kid that grew up watching the Olympics, so it'll be fun to watch them.
At the time, many fans and media expected fireworks. Instead, Clark opted for quiet resolve. But not everyone accepted the explanation. The omission sparked widespread debate across social media, sports media, and among fans. Many argued this was a huge missed opportunity for women's basketball.
Really? What? He goes, we love Caitlin Clark here. We're devastated. And then he even texted me, my mom is devastated. New Zealand, that is how terrible this decision was. And we haven't even started talking about Merritt and her good play.
One major criticism. A star like Clark could have injected fresh energy into the Olympic team. Her popularity, her ability to draw new fans, and her style could have boosted global interest in women's basketball. Others asked, with viewership dropping and women's basketball trying to expand its reach, doesn't USA basketball owe it to the sport to include newer stars, not just rely on older names? Some called the decision a disservice to the WNBA and to the growth potential of the sport. Critics pointed out that Clark's rookie WNBA season, even if rough at times, brought unpredictable energy, strong scoring, and a growing fan base. That kind of excitement can't always be measured by experience alone.
So you look at Caitlin, it's like, yo, this is the biggest player we have in basketball ever. We're not saying the best, but the biggest.
Yeah. So
now when people are tuning in to watch these games, it's not just me talking, it's all the numbers. From going from 4,000 people going to 17,000 average, the attendance. Talking about the viewerships. They average like 2 million viewers every time they play. So now you take the biggest draw of WNBA basketball players, you take her away to replace her with who? For who? Why?
For many, the omission looked like a choice favoring tradition over transformation, and that didn't sit well. Just under a year later, in May 2025, Sue Bird was named the first ever managing director of USA Basketball's women's national team, a newly created role that centralizes roster and coaching decisions. For Bird, it's a big shift. Instead of being on the court, she'll now decide which players get to wear the stars and stripes. In her own words, she said she's excited for the opportunity to apply her experience, the championships, Olympic golds, and the years of international play in shaping future teams. The timing is significant. The restructure comes as the women's program enters a transitional phase, with Paris 2024 behind it, the 2026 World Cup, and the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics on the horizon. Young talent is rising, veterans are shifting roles. Bird's appointment signals a new chapter. When asked about Clark's exclusion, Bird spoke with clarity. On the 2025 Dan Patrick Show, she was asked whether she would have included Clark in the 2024 roster. Her answer, TBD, we've got 3 years. Her tone suggested that while she sees Clark's potential, there are many variables before she'd commit to a spot.
I mean, TBD. We got 3 years.
More importantly, Bird defended the original selection process. She said she respected the committee's work, acknowledging the tough choices involved, and reiterated that for Paris 2024, the roster delivered what mattered most, Olympic gold. She explained that integrating a rookie, even a highly talented one, into a veteran-heavy squad with limited prep time poses real risks. International competitions demand cohesion, familiarity with FIBA rules, and chemistry that often comes only with experience.
And it is because the talent is so great.
Yeah.
I could sit here and make an argument for her being on the team, but that would require me to take somebody off. And when I look at this roster, I don't see myself doing that. If Caitlin had made the team and somebody else had gotten snubbed,
Right.
and I could have made that argument, I would have looked at the roster and I wouldn't have been able to take anybody off. So that's the challenge of picking the U.S. women's basketball team.
But here's an important, often overlooked piece of the story. Bird hasn't dismissed Clark's impact. If anything, she's acknowledged it. In recent comments, Bird praised Clark for what she has already brought to women's basketball. She spoke about Clark's ability to bring attention to the sport, the influx of fans, the fresh energy in arenas, and the new audience watching women's basketball. Bird said that for a league and a national program, having players like Clark, talented, popular, and media savvy, is important. Their presence can help grow the game, attract younger fans, and build a more global following. She recognized that rising stars can accelerate interest in women's basketball beyond traditional metrics. She has also made it clear the fact that Clark was left off the 2024 roster shouldn't be interpreted as a rejection of her value. Rather, it reflected the specific demands and risks of that moment: a tight Olympic window, high stakes, and limited preparation. But Clark remains firmly in the conversation for future cycles. So Bird's message to Clark and to fans is, your talent matters, your impact matters, and there's a future where you can help build Team USA again. As of 2025, Clark remains one of the most talked about players in women's basketball. Her popularity, youthful energy, and talent have not waned. She's young, driven, and now aware more than ever of what she'll need to prove, not just as a star, but as a team player capable of thriving under Olympic pressure. For Bird, her new role brings responsibility and opportunity. She has the authority to shape the next era of USA basketball. Her public statements show she understands both history and potential. She doesn't want to discard proven methods, but she also isn't blind to what new blood like Clark could bring. Their paths are not at odds. They might intersect. In fact, many expect that if Clark continues on her upward trajectory, she will have a genuine chance to wear the USA jersey in the future. Bird herself suggested as much on record. She hasn't ruled out Clark for 2028. Caitlin Clark is the future of women's basketball and the excitement on the court. When institutions bench or sideline her, even for experience reasons, it seems disrespectful. Sue Bird's response was a reminder to recognize the real impact of players like Clark. Comment Clark forever if you stand with Clark. Share this with every fan and supporter who believes women's basketball should thrive.